Okay.
Mom, please.
Okay, we're gonna have to run without the microphones. I'd like to call this meeting to order for March 28, 2016 of the Parks and Recreation Committee. Everybody stand and rise and face the flag. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, roll call. Yeah. Here.
Here. Here.
Here?
Here.
All right, that brings us down to agenda modifications. Do we have any?
Nope.
I hear none. Approval of minutes from February 22nd, 2016. Any motions?
Any questions?
Any corrections?
Okay, motion to approve?
A second?
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. You got that, Rachel? Over here. All right, that brings us to unfinished business. Item A, Parks and Recreation Master Plan. Mr. Griffin.
Yes, sir. Good evening. I had thought that at our last meeting, we kind of put to bed the master plan. I had presented this to you at the last meeting and had put a number on that of about $80,000 to $100,000. And rather than go for that or take that to council, I thought it was the consensus of the commission that we table that, and that any decisions regarding new parks, other improvements, would come from the commission itself, and that we should table this at least for a while. Am I wrong on that?
Well, you're correct.
I had a couple questions. I thought it was left at look it over, see if there's any questions, and just kind of see where we're going to go, but with the understanding of tabling it. I did have a couple just general questions, maybe
Sure.
about what's the typical method for advertising or posting once you do the RFQ? Like if you were to put that out, what's that process and time frame, and how does that go out? Just to kind of know how it works.
Yes, sir. We have some boilerplate pages, drug testing, maybe DBE, disadvantaged business enterprise, they might have to comply with depending on where the money's coming from. Also, public entity crime forms and things like that. And then we have a standard page that just says when the bid is let, if there's a mandatory pre-bid, and then the close date, obviously, closing time, sealed bid requirements, things like that. And that's all fairly standard. What is non-standard is the scope of services. What we would be looking for in the scope of services in any type of bid, whether it's a construction bid at the airport or restrooms at the annex or whatever it is. So just as a review on the scope of services, some of the important things that were identified. Frank Watanabe, our city engineer, did this, so I don't know if you all took a look at this, but just real quick, 10 of the professional services that we are requesting: review of all existing parks, assessment of demand, needs, and priorities, long-range vision and goals, economic assessment, review of statewide comp open recreational plan, standards and guidelines, public inputs and workshops, which the successful bidder would be required to have meetings with the public, open meetings, implementation, funding opportunities, and the draft of the final document that would be the deliverable that they would present to us. So that's all on there. One of the not the hang up, but one of the concerns that I heard from the commission was that, not to kiss up, but we're all smart people here, and I think we can best, or you can best, determine what the needs are because we live here, we have a lot of experience here, we know pretty much what the public might want, and that's why I thought the determination was made to shelve this, at least for a while.
Okay, and then, so when we advertise, is that part of the cost? Like, how do you put that out there? So does that go, like, websites in the paper? Like, how do you get the pool of people to? We have
we do it in the newspaper, obviously. We also have a bidding service that we use that goes out to the world.
Okay.
Anybody who's an engineering consultant or a building construction firm, whatever it is, they all subscribe to that service. So I'm 99% sure that will get out to all interested parties who might want to look at this.
And then
and for example, our city engineer, so Frank Watanabe knows people in this business, and he would make sure that they would get a copy of it also.
I stated before that I'm from the standpoint of, I think it's a good thing because I don't know what I don't know. And it's somebody whose business it is to look at those different things and those aspects and put it in there as far as a master plan over a set period of time, because things are going to change. The people on the council will change, the city manager will change, the people on this board will change. So to say that, we're all smart people, those same people aren't always going to be the same ones up here willing to do it or do it at any given time, versus a master plan that would go out over a certain period of time for the city to have a vision of where it goes. That's one of the aspects that I'd like to put out there. And then two, was there a previous master plan at some point of steering like where we got to this point for Parks and Rec, and when was the last time, or is everything that's been done to this point was just kind of through the Parks and Rec and making an individual appeal and to the council and building things up?
That's how I understand it.
I've been
Joanne?
on this committee probably longer than everybody who's been here together on this committee.
But
We've
even
never-
going back like 15, 20, 30 years, I mean, was there ever a vision of
I don't
things?
remember us ever having a master plan. We always had ideas on things we wanted to work on, and we did have, though the city did have the master plan for the greenways and the water, that was about the only thing that we had with some direction, and that's where we ended up with the bike trails, the signage, looking at launches for kayaks, because it fit into the citywide master plan. But as Parks and Rec, all the years that I've been on here, we never really had anything, and I think you're right. We need to have something in writing so that when we're not here in the next so many years, at least there's a goal to go towards. It's something that is a plan to work towards. So I think it's real important.
And maybe it was easier in the past because there were things to do. The current part is that we're getting built out. So you're getting to the point where, the decisions are not as easy. And so if you're talking about an individual's idea about buying more land, or who's, of where that park's going to go and where the money is, because it's a set amount based on the way that we're getting it from new construction, and to know where that's going to, that's going to have a kind of a final part. So that would be my input.
Yep.
I mean, just my experience at the airport and also with the city, we have a comp plan with the city. There at the airport, where there are grants involved, you can't do anything unless you have something on a plan, whether it's FDOT or FAA. But here is a different situation, because whatever your recommendation would be, if it were to come out of the plan that we would have done, still has to go to council. So in a way, it's kind of got the aspects of a grant, but then the other side of that sword is that still could be $100,000 where you could put it somewhere else.
Right.
So.
But I think at times it is a lot of money, and I think that's kind of scared us at first, is the amount of money that it would cost to do that. But then also, you think about how much money maybe we're spending on things that aren't gearing to what we want to have done in the future anyway.
And do it right.
What kind of a timeline, though, when we say in the future, what are we looking at to have something like this?
Probably about 4 months.
Okay, so that's not...
4 to 6 maybe on the outside, but after 4 months, certainly that firm should be, they should be making public workshop appearances and things like that. I mean, one of the things that I think would, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
If you wanna do that, would you want public input during the summer month? No, I'm not, I
Oh.
do, but I'm just looking at the time frame. I mean, 'cause we're pretty quiet around here during the summer months, or doesn't it matter?
I don't know. My other question is, this is still just a recommendation from Parks and Rec. Ultimately, this would still be going to city council for them to decide whether they wanna do an RFQ as well. And that's
Well,
correct? I mean, it's for them to say whether, 'cause for the budget, to say that, you know, we'll spend this amount of money to be able to hire a firm to do this. That's based on council deciding to spend that money as well, or just,
we have not budgeted this,
Right.
obviously. It's not in this year's budget. I feel comfortable, putting this out on the street and publishing it, and getting responses.
right,
Once we find somebody, the process is perhaps to go through an interview process. That's what we do, where we have similarly situated firms that are very close, not only in number, but also in qualifications. And then we could go through an interview process. I mean, that's one thing.
right.
And then it would go to council to say, okay, let the contract and start paying these people and, getting a product back from them.
Does this money come out of, it's out of Parks and Rec then, but the money could come from the budget for all the different zone areas. Actually, we could pull some from each then, couldn't we, John?
I think we can.
Well, that would be fair, I would
Yeah.
think, yeah.
Out of all of them,
I mean, it's a citywide thing.
yeah.
I mean, one of the things that I'd like to have a question answered, I mean, I know the answer, but, where I have a concern is the fact that, you know, we have this pot of money, and it's not so big, don't take it the wrong way. We have this pot of money in recreation that we can build new facilities, but I have nothing, I cannot use that money for maintenance.
Right.
And that's a huge frustration, for me, almost daily, because I get complaints, and they filter their way to my office, and, prime example, not to complain, but prime example is Friendship Park and the clay tennis courts. Now, clay tennis courts, to avid tennis players, I mean, that's nirvana. I mean, everybody wants to play on clay tennis courts. But, and I remember that there was a huge controversy when we were gonna put those tennis courts in because of the maintenance aspect of those tennis courts. They went in anyway, obviously, and, now this maintenance, that comes out of general fund maintenance money, ad valorem, other funds. I can't use DST. I mean, it can be really, troubling. It's really,
When Mr. Minter was here, and I approached him and the city attorney at the time about using our money for maintenance, and they could not give me an answer why it's not in that.
the state statute. We can't do it.
Because to me, it's crazy, like you're suggesting, we should be able to use that money for maintenance.
Now, as long as we're talking about this, I mean, this may be far out, but, this might be a possibility. What if we, had a Parks and Rec taxing unit? In other words, like, don't everybody start yelling at me, like we have with our stormwater fund. We tax residential properties for stormwater, and stormwater maintenance, capital improvement projects, and also stormwater maintenance. It's a bona fide fund, it's documented where we put that money, what it's used for. We're getting to a point where it might be critical mass within the city that perhaps we might need a separate taxing unit, and I'm not talking about a lot of money, but something that would fund those projects that come out of Parks and Rec, that are paid for out of that fund, but that we can't really maintain, as we should. It takes money, we fall short, I'm the first to admit it, and, it's a concern, but, I mean, maybe these people would know the answer to that.
I was gonna say, those are the types of things that I don't think that we as that's getting out of our scope, and to have somebody whose
Sure.
job it is to look at that, to advise the city, to be able to then make up, you know, here's how it's done in these other cities and districts, and these are some of the options of way that it's run in A, B, C, or D, and then as a committee, and a community, you begin to weigh those different options. But I think just going piecemeal is, it's not really the way to do it over time.
But that's a good idea, though. It's not, I haven't
I
even
agree.
thought about that, because everyone uses.
So I would be in favor of trying to, at least put it out in an interview process and see what comes of that, and then try to make those decisions down the road. Since it's not ultimately, this committee putting, the final approval on it, but at least you offered something.
I think I misspoke on this, because this is an RFQ, a request for qualifications, which is much different than an RFP, which is dollar-based. This would be to look at probably be an engineering firm themselves on their qualifications. And then once we pick that firm through the interview process, then we get into the negotiations for the money. That's how that process would work. Did I explain that?
Item B.
So what,
Do I have some marching orders here?
Yes, you do.
And they are?
I would go with what Greg says to, put it out to bid, or how you do that in paper, and then, let them bring it back to how much it's gonna cost.
Yes.
Okay,
Right, Greg?
thank you.
yes, sir.
Okay, item B, update on the pickleball courts and the baseball field.
First thing I did after the last meeting was turn this over to Mr. Watanabe and get me some cost estimates. And I was gonna present this tonight. I should have burned copies for you guys, but I thought that thing was gonna be working. So I've been overtaken by events here. So let me just explain this to you as best I can. I did cost estimates for Friendship Park and cost estimates for Hardy Park. Cost estimates for Friendship Park, $222,480. And for Hardy Park, $48,872, and this is for 4 courts. So
Sorry, what was the second number?
$48,872.
Okay, thank you.
Now, I'm the first to admit that Frank has erred on the high side, I think, here. So this is a little bit higher, but I think the disparity between the two is really self-evident. It's still going to be proportional, and I'm still going to have a huge difference in cost. One of the big things that is not we didn't really talk about with regard to Friendship Park last time was parking area and a driveway and access along that back portion, which is an extension of Cross Street. We don't own that property, that driveway. We do not, there's a little driveway, I don't know if you've been back there, Ms. Joanne, there's a little driveway that runs just on the, it runs north-south where Cross Street extends. It's a dirt driveway. We don't own that property. The city doesn't own that property.
We don't own that dirt.
We do not own that, no ma'am. So we would have to do something, either acquire it somehow or do a whole reconstruction of getting people back there and redoing parking. The other thing to consider is, I know what you're thinking, is this area over by the, in back of the cop shop, in back of the police department, excuse me, that, where the disabled playground is. That area is going to be redone for a new police evidence building and expanded parking area. So that goes out the window. So I'm kind of restricted there. I have some major restrictions there. So, there are also some site plan issues with regard to drainage. There aren't the site plan drainage issues over on Hardy Park because of sheet flow into the Collier Canal. That's how that would be designed. We would do a concrete pad for all 4, and these would be strictly set up for pickleball. We would do a concrete pad and then the acrylic surface coating over top. That adds to the cost a little bit, but it's more prudent to do it that way because we have found that when we use the asphalt, grass still comes up through the asphalt and we get into problems 5 years down the road. So we would have chain link fencing around, coated chain link fencing, and proper striping. We would have a prepared parking area, which would be an extension of the Millings parking that we have there now at Hardy Park. We would extend that, what would that be, to the west, and prepare that. We already have a restroom on site. Disabled access, frankly, is much better than it is in the Friendship Park choice. Because of the access, there's a slight elevation going from grade where the pickleball courts would be at Friendship up to the restroom area at Friendship. So with disabled access, you can only have 12-degree slope. So we would lose some property because we'd have to extend that 12 degrees out into the ball field more. So you'd lose some property there. Perhaps not a lot, but a significant amount that he wanted to mention that to me. So these 4 pickleball courts would not have lighting if, we haven't budgeted for this year. It's not on our budget. I went through our capital improvement plan this year. I think because we have not done some projects in the Parks and Rec arena, and also on US 1 beautification project that got dropped. I think we can find some money for this, for the $48,000, and would feel comfortable taking that to council. Frankly, I would not feel comfortable taking the $222,000, well, actually, the amended total, because he has a contingency built in. So Frank has a contingency built in, typical engineer. $245,000, and whereas the Hardy Park site is $55,000. So that's what I'm recommending. I'm recommending we go to the Hardy Park site. I have a bid prepared, ready to go. I can have this out tomorrow morning. We would close in a month, and about another month for construction.
So when you say 4, I'm sorry, is it 4 courts meaning 8 playable surfaces, or is it 2? When you say 4 courts, that's meaning 4 playable courts?
4 playable pickleball courts. Okay. Yes, sir.
Because I thought before it was up to 8, so okay.
8, we're looking at 8.
Okay.
Okay, I have a question on, Hardy Park for the amount of money that, that you're looking at, that's with no lights.
Yes, ma'am.
And we had talked about lights being about, was it 30?
Yes, and because this is not a budget item,
Right.
I think that, and now we're in the daylight savings time, so people will ostensibly be able to play until 9:30 at night through the summer. We get into the budget season, and we see how this goes. Lights can be added, I mean, obviously, so I can budget for that and feel comfortable with getting that done.
My question was Friendship Park, because I did go back there this afternoon and look. So what you're saying is where the road comes to the church parking lot, that dirt road in there really does not belong to the city, but they've been letting us drive back in there to use the baseball?
Oh, sure, yeah.
They're
Yeah,
letting us
well,
do
we've
that.
had complaints about that.
Okay, so if we were not to have that drive or that dirt road, how else could we access that baseball field? If they said tomorrow, we don't want you using that, we own the property where the parking is, right? Where the little it's a tiny parking at the end of that little dirt area. Do we own that, or does that belong to the church?
I don't think I'm following you.
When you're driving past the church on the end of the street, you said where the pavement ends, and then you're going on the dirt road to the little parking area?
We don't
Like
own that,
some
we don't
cones.
own that.
We don't own that parking area at all.
Will you turn to the east?
Where you just go straight in, there's a there's some posts there, so I guess big vehicles or whatever. There's just a grassy little parking area there in the wooded area.
There is as you go on that dirt road, and you get near that parking area you're talking about, there are some posts,
Right.
okay? That used to be a workable gate. The people who owned that property put the gate up. And there's a dog pen there. I don't know if you've seen that, but there is. And, somebody destroyed the gate.
But I did see, when I was in that little parking lot to turn around, there is tracks, or it looks like somebody from the road that runs along the railroad, that road, what's the name of that road, where the bed and breakfast used to be, you know, right along the tracks there behind Maxwell.
Just North Central,
Or
Louisiana.
It looks like whoever has the house back there, there is road access. I mean, you can see they're running up and down that, and the city doesn't own that either, that.
That's Louisiana Avenue,
Louisiana.
extension of Louisiana,
So
yes.
there are tracks there, so whoever's riding is using that either as an access or they're getting it out. So are you saying then that if the church were to stop and say, we don't want you anymore coming on this dirt road, we have no access to that baseball except walking?
Except walking, yes.
So, we'd have to put in another access and a parking area there. I'm just gonna give my 2 cents about that area back there. It's got lights and, you know, if we had to do a parking, to me, it's a nice area. I mean, it's got all the lights there and it's a good access to me to put courts up. You're talking about drainage and things in there, which I can understand. But it's also an area now that doesn't get much use, and it is a nice piece of property. I did go to Hardy Park too, and I did pull in there. The parking lot would have to be expanded quite a bit. The only problem I have with Hardy Park is, we would eventually have to have lights, but I sometimes think that we need parks where there's not always a lot of stuff going on, and it's a walking area where people exercise. It's a quiet zone to me. It does have a good piece of land in it, but yeah, we could put the courts in there and put something else in. But I sometimes hesitate to sometimes do that to a lot of our parks, just because I think at times we need places where there isn't a lot of stuff going on, and people do need that time to walk or whatever they're gonna do without parking issues and people playing tennis and bike riders and stuff. So,
I'm following up with Joanne. That's the park that I oversee, and I really think the tranquility would be out the door with the pickleball court. People are walking, with those courts there, you're losing your view, there's gonna be a lot of activity. I agree with her. That's a big part of that park, is the serenity of it, and the walking and the neighbors, and we do have a small little park for the kids there with the toys. I agree with her consensus on that we would lose that on that park.
So, anyway, that's my input on Friendship Park. I would kinda like to use that one way. I can see that the monies you're looking at are a lot higher. We wouldn't have to put lights in, but eventually we'd have to put bathrooms if we're gonna do the courts in Friendship Park. So, that's my thought.
Wait, what was your last comment? We need a,
Well, if we do pickleball courts, can they use the bathrooms? Can they get
why not?
all the way through then? Okay, so, and the lights.
It's a park, I mean, we'll
I
make
just-
a path. I was just making sure I heard you right. We have the facilities.
It would mainly be parking then.
Okay.
That's what it would have to be.
At the end of the, paved driveway now, where it stops and it goes to dirt, is there any way that we can cut another road to the left to get back there?
There's a huge retention area there,
I know,
just past the cell phone tower. Huge retention area. I mean, that would have to be so, that the engineering and the construction on that, I mean, just would be, that would be the.
Have we ever asked the church if maybe we could have access to that?
I think the church owns part of that, but after that gate, my understanding is, and I didn't pull the drawing on that, but that's owned, from what Dorian Community Development told me, owned by the residents just past that gate and to the east.
Maybe that's.
It's a totally different person who owns that, so
Look at it again.
that's the issue. I mean, you know, you But the other thing is, am I gonna take a proposal in front of council for $245,000 when it hasn't, I haven't proposed that in the budget? I mean, frankly, that'd be very tough to do.
So is the amount of this high amount because of having to redo a parking area access? Did he break down what?
Parking area and driveway, $110,250. That was his estimate. Now, that's probably inflated a little bit, you know, but if it's $100,000, I mean, that's still a lot, obviously. So, and he's got to redo the retention and drainage pipe. That's $32,000. So, I mean, those are big numbers that we haven't budgeted for in this fiscal year.
When you had the drawings from last time, so just refresh my memory on where the parking was, because I thought we were one of the advantages was that we were just utilizing the parking that we already had.
Sorry.
I know.
I apologize. This is Hardy, and these could be oriented a different way, but this is basically the area we're talking about. Here's the Millings parking currently. Here's the restroom at Hardy Park. So the Millings parking would be extended out to here.
Okay.
Have you ever been out in this area?
Yeah.
I mean, the other idea would be to extend the parking around here, but there's some, you know, there's kind of some specimen trees in there that I wouldn't want to pull out.
And then countering that, the parking that we're talking about here at Friendship Park, what parking are we talking about creating versus already using the parking that just exists in this complex?
It'd have to be expanded out because it's not big enough right now, but there's just trees there and the driveway. The parking, yeah, because the parking is not big enough.
Trees around here, you still could do it. And you could put Millings in here. And really, Millings would be the non-pervious way. And also for drainage.
Well, I was just there today trying to park in that parking lot. That's a small parking lot, yeah, because of the walls of the water there. I mean, it's not a, you can't get.
There's wheel stops there, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, you know, we'll do it the right way. I mean, we're not gonna do something stupid.
So, how much of an easeway would it be from, I see from, looking at this, I know it's not still probably actual, but like I'm looking at the actual, the courts here, how many, feet or inches would it be away from, the walking paths on both sides? But I can hear this right here, it's almost like close to. Towards the, I know it's
off with the engineer last week.
I know.
Both areas.
There's a big area there.
And it was, this is really not a good depiction, but it's 128 feet by 64.
But I'm saying, but from the east side, I got you. So how much, so it'd be almost like 6 feet away from this, or?
No, it wasn't that close, no.
How many courts?
Beside the trees.
Is it the 4 courts? Is that 4 courts too?
4. Yes, ma'am.
And there's no drainage issues with it being in that big area there?
There's a slight, in back of where it was placed, there's a slight depression. You probably know where that is, John. And, that would convey water out to Collier.
In that parking, like I said, it's kind of, the parking, how much, let me just try to see, that's a lot of money just for parking. But I know it's probably like.
For here, back here?
Yes, for back here. And that's like, it just takes everything to a whole new level.
No wonder lighting, say for Hardy Park, could they use the, like the lighting in the volleyball courts for Hardy Park, something like that?
I think the fix would be the new lighting that we have at Schumann Tennis Courts. I think that would be more appropriate. Now, the estimate on the lighting, the estimate on, I had some correspondence from Daytona Beach Shores, and they had put in some pickleball courts up there. And, the gentleman who was the mayor up there, Harry Jennings, anyway, sent me this, and he had the lighting and the lighting materials was $7,500. Well, he really sent me a great, letter on this, but that just seemed a little light on the $7,500. But, you know, I can get a good estimate and budget for it in the next budget year.
Well, my idea was, initially, I like the idea of Friendship Park, but I don't like the idea with this parking area now. I can see Hardy Park, I know Hardy Park pretty well. There's a lot of room in there to put the course, and they're gonna be away from the walk path on both sides. And there is room to expand the parking down there.
But as far as growth, so I know originally it was gonna be 8 courts back here, and then 4, so when that time, so say, I mean, who to say it's gonna grow, who to say it's not gonna grow, but if it does grow, then we're just gonna have to worry about that at some other time, and we'll be right back almost to the same spot right now, so, which is kinda hard, so, man, that's tough. I mean, it's really tough, that's why, we know Sebastian's potentially growing, we just need land to be able to.
Where do you wanna go?
I mean, I feel comfortable with, I mean, I know that $100,000, $200,000 fee is skewed, but, I mean, it was already budgeted for back here, but we didn't have the understanding that was gonna encounter all these problems. They were, not to say problems, but to run into all these obstacles. And so, I mean, that's a lot of money, and I know, I'm pretty sure when council look at it, council gonna like, part of Barker Ward, at that higher price and go to the lower price, so I'm originally for it. Right now, currently, I'm with Friendship Park, knowing that it's a possibility that it may not, but who knows how things may turn, as opposed to going to a place that's already gonna be small right now, but again, who's to say it's gonna grow, it's gonna be able to catch on in our small city, but I'm more of an optimist, whereas if you build it out here where the room is already at, there's a good possibility, knowing our area is already scrunched, trying to find area for other things in the area, and this may be, I mean, I travel around a lot, and I've seen pickleball being played, I was at the Barber Street US 1 complex. They got a little gated community there. It's a 55 and over community. I mean, it's a lot of players over there playing now over there, and so I know it's probably going to come towards here once they know we got something going. So I just see it already. I mean, you asked me a question. I'm more in favor of back here.
Could I offer something? One of the things that, and I say this respectfully, or as much as I can, but one of the things that, the problems that we've had here, I'd say in the past year and a half, disc golf, when disc golf came along, it was a great idea, but nobody wanted it in their neighborhood. They didn't want it at Filbert Park, they didn't want it at Schumann, they didn't want it no one wanted it anywhere. I mean, I hear Ms. White talking about these parks and they have to be utilized, but no one wants any kind of exposure in the parks. I mean, it's frankly, it's kind of crazy to me. I mean, Filbert Park is beautiful in a huge area, absolutely huge. Now, doesn't have a restroom, I get it. It's off the beaten path though, and really is a nice facility. But yet, because of the neighbors, we can't use it. I mean, I'm a resident of Sebastian. I pay into this too, just as we all do, and that's a little selfish, I think. Pardon me for saying.
I'd like to hear input from based on, the people that are here before I decide which way I put my final, what I'm thinking, not that it's swaying me. I'd like to hear it.
Anybody wants to speak, come on up.
We've seen her before.
Hello again. My name is Mary Colasino, and I live at 9612 Riverside Drive, Sebastian. And the last time I addressed you, I was talking about all of the different implications that were involved in pickleball. My husband and I just recently came out and took a look at Friendship. We walked around the whole perimeter. Being tennis players, we also
saw the scope of what was there and all the needs that the community would have within that area. And the one thing that we kept on walking away from is that this place is going to be perfect. And the reason why is you don't really, in our humble opinion, and now mind you, you know, we are not builders or anything like this. We are participants. You come to a facility to exercise. You park your car, you walk to this facility, whether it's tennis or pickleball, and you play. I'm not quite sure about all this parking that everybody's talking about. I don't understand why it can't just be evolving around here, because when you play tennis, you park here and you walk to the tennis courts. So bear with me on that. I'm trying to put my arms around all that. You have a perfect facility with bathrooms, with parking, with lighting. And it's a facility that hasn't been used, the baseball field hasn't been used in a long time. And to your point, don't just let that great land just sit there. Utilize it. And that's about all I have for you. Yes?
So, are you thinking then from the parking lot back here by the tennis courts, if there were a trail all the way back to that area, that wouldn't be an issue?
No, not an issue at all. And actually, so when my husband and I were standing there, we were visualizing it because in our thoughts, this truly is enough parking. What you have out here is truly enough parking. And if you just had a trail right back out there, then people are here to exercise.
That's true.
Right? And then the other part that I would want to kind of stress about is we had 8 courts. 8 courts, great for tournaments, great for people from out of town coming. You have it so close to town. People can walk, they can visit the restaurants, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If you have it at another place, smaller courts, not as convenient to downtown, et cetera, et cetera. So, oh, you're so welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Karen Palin, and I've been playing here in Sebastian, teaching everybody how to play pickleball. We've been doing it in the evenings at Schumann Park, Monday through Friday, because we didn't want to bother the tennis players. That's the only time we've had available to play. So when we get dedicated courts, we'll be able to show it to the people who are retired who'd like to come out and exercise in the mornings. And in the summertime, it gets really hot in the afternoon, so then there'll still be people that play in the evenings. So far, the people that we've been able to really show the sport to and have them enjoy are working families that are not able to play during the morning. They're only able to play in the evening. So they come out and they play under those wonderful lights we have at Schumann, and they enjoy themselves. They bring their kids out, and I would like to have, it's wonderful that they get to play, so they definitely deserve lights. I mean, that's their stress relief after work, and it wouldn't be fair that they're the ones that are starting it and are not going to be able to play on actual dedicated courts because there wouldn't be lights on them. I love pickleball. I love the sound of it, but if you're not playing it and you don't know what that sound is, and you're trying to sleep or take a nap in the afternoon and you have it right next to your house, and you're not used to having any activities near your home, that may not be a very nice thing to have. And I love all my Sebastian neighbors and residents, and I wouldn't want something wonderful like this sport that could really become a person's lifeline to bother other human beings. So these hardy parks, and I'm also in agreement with Ms. White of how we need stuff like this here in Sebastian, things that people can go and take a deep breath and relax and have quiet and enjoy the sounds of nature. I mean, it looks like a really beautiful park where you could go and take your baby out on a stroller ride without worried about it, the baby waking up or anything like that. So in this Friendship Park, I do hear that there is space, there's lights and everything like that, but I know there's concerns about taking away from children's softball and things like that, but maybe we have other locations here in Sebastian. Maybe do we have a possibility of behind the pool area, or maybe an area that is going to actually have a pickleball facility? Sebastian deserves that. If you have looked up pickleball, you should know that it is the fastest growing sport because everybody can play it. I can take a 10-year-old child and have them play with a 90-year-old person, and it can be a competitive game there where you don't know who's going to win because of the skills that you can have from it. People go out first thing in the morning just to get on that pickleball court. We deserve to be able to roll out of bed and go out and play and exercise before we even have to shower or do anything, and then have our day. When it's our hot weather, we can go and do our shopping in the air conditioning and then get back on the courts when the cool evening comes out. I mean, we deserve that as Sebastian residents. Eventually we will have it, but we should do it the right way. I don't think that we should inconvenience Hardy Park, and if the softball field isn't being used, it does sound like a perfect location. Of course, it's an investment, and it is promoting wellness for our community. Okay? Thank you. Do you have any questions whatsoever?
I have a question. So, going on the theme of, doing it right, so let's say that it went to being at Friendship Park, and that's where it would go. Bigger courts, lighting, facilities, complexes, but that it would have to be budgeted for because you wouldn't necessarily be able to make it into the budget for this year based on the cost for that. So, are you okay with getting things what you want, maybe having to wait 1 or 2 years for that to come to fruition?
I think Sebastian deserves for it to be right. I would like to maybe know what if you would like to do both, like that Hardy Park would sound something quaint for that community. If it's only 4 little courts that don't have lights, the people that live around there might like to enjoy it privately. I mean, a lot of our little communities are starting to have their own pickleball courts. So,
but if it came down to a choice, like if it came down to choices, like it could go in this year at 50,000, 60,000, but it would have to be at Hardy. Or it could go in at Friendship at a higher cost, but it may take, not this year, it could take 1 to 2 years.
I
pose it to you like that. Do you have a preference?
I have to say that pickleball is a sport that isn't well known, and that's the only reason why you don't already have everybody asking for it. I mean, if it was the same question about tennis courts, what would your answer be?
My question is, I'm asking input from you.
Okay.
Are you willing to wait?
Just because you answered that way doesn't mean that that's going to happen. I'm saying if you had that choice, if it was a choice of smaller courts at a lower cost at a smaller park, but there's a chance that it could be done this year versus having a larger complex, which over time with lights and there's parking, but it budgetarily could make it in this year, then it would be next year or the year after that. In your personal opinion, which would you approve? That is my question.
If I had to choose between the two and I wasn't able to get both,
correct,
because both would ultimately be
obviously
the best for the community, I would say that we should wait and do it.
Pardon?
That we should wait and do it the correct way, because it is growing. In Vero Beach, they have 6 courts, and they have people waiting a half hour to get on the court. And everybody loves pickleball and they love playing each other, but you get kind of like in little animosity where you want to get on that court and play. You didn't want to come here and wait for a half hour, and they're having to like spread themselves out so they're asking for lights over there and things like that. In Melbourne, they did 4 dedicated courts, and they had 64 people there on like the first day that they had them available for the people. Only 4 people per court. So all those people have to wait. So I believe that Sebastian, we have very beautiful parks. We have wonderful recreation, and that's what makes it so wonderful to live here. If we're going to have something here in Sebastian, we should do it nicely, like everything else that we have. Even though the Hardy people may enjoy having their own little private.
I'm not trying to be rude.
No, no, I just want you to completely understand, so I'm sure. And you know, I would love to show each and every one of you this sport. And I had a video, and I had spoken to our city mayor about, our city manager about bringing it to you so you would see the beauty of what it's like to have courts in your community and how nice it would be.
You were,
No, it's a different video.
You know what?
Yes.
We pretty much are sold on pickleball.
That's
And so
wonderful.
we're backing you and we agree. No, and we're kind of looking at where this might work, but I have a question for Mr. Griffin. If we were not to do the parking at Friendship, we didn't need a parking lot, what would that cost take out of what we were looking at? So if we didn't have to put any parking or driveway or anything, and it was just putting in the courts and a walking path, wouldn't that cut down quite a bit of the money?
He's got $110,000, pardon me, $110,250 from 245, so that would be,
So that would be,
$135,000.
and I hadn't thought about parking and walking. You're right. If we're trying to get exercise, I guess it would make sense to maybe walk a little bit. You know, and if the court, to me, that's a place where we can grow. And if Hardy Park, if it were to take off and grow, there's no growth place. I mean, we'd be kind of stuck there. So that's my opinion. I guess I'm thinking now if we could park in the parking lot here, have a walking path to the back where the courts are, because the lights are there. And we've already have the lights and we have a restroom, so.
I think there's a, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I think when they do these calculations for the amount of parking, they plan on, just off the top of my head, some sort of capacity number for this building, for the old schoolhouse, for the annex, for the police department, the Boys and Girls Club, the tennis. So that's all figured in, and you know, you go out and count the spots, and maybe there's not enough spots, I don't know. So,
Well, the other thought is Boys and Girls Club. I mean,
I'm sorry?
Boys and Girls Club also are close enough nearby that they could be using the facility too if there was somebody. So I guess I'm gonna go down and say if the pickleball group thinks that if we had enough parking and we just had a walking trail or path to there, and we could put in, because I think we had talked about 8 courts, back there, and the lights are there, and we have a restroom, that's where I'm going to side this.
Can I say something else as well? 'Cause like, just to look at things as a whole, you're looking at, I guess, because if you look at tennis, I mean, I don't see whereas, like, I never even thought about all the parking that's around us, because, if you go to any activity, most individuals that go into any activities are always, like you said, parking and walking, and the actual, like, area that encompass all the way around, well, not all the way around, but like, you have an idea what's going on, so I mean, but I don't see pickleball being a heavily used sport in the morning time, whereas you're gonna need all your parking spots all around, and then, or it's gonna be overutilize this area for pickleball or whatever, or tennis and pickleball combined at any particular time, whereas you're gonna see all the parking spots being used, even by the entities that's, utilizing this building, whatever, so I don't foresee, it being constantly being used, and like, to talk about one of your questions about wait time, I participated in seeing other activities, whereas 20 minutes waiting for an activity is almost nothing compared to other entities, like, you have, I mean, like, when I ran the recreation, when I was with the recreation department, and we had basketball, we had to use one basketball gym, 4 courts, or 1 basketball gym, 2 courts, and the wait time was a lot longer, so, I mean, 20 minutes to me is almost nothing like this, but the actual, utilizing the actual, parking area, I don't see where I mean, this is my opinion, that I don't think this whole entire area would have every parking slot filled up, where we just, like, I mean, I like the idea you thought about, like, waiting for something to be done right, which is a good idea to be waiting, but they just only my opinion, I'm not speaking for that at all, I'm pretty passionate about certain things. I think that, the parking issue as a whole, maybe we can get around that parking issue. It can be get around because the whole entire area won't be utilized at the same point in time.
It's amazing how pickleball grows, and people love it, and they travel around for it. It would be for everybody here who lives in Sebastian. So, I mean, in the villages, they have like over 114 courts, and they have a smaller number perhaps of the people that we have here in Sebastian, so we, you know, 8 courts with lights would make it available for people to be able to play during the morning, which is very nice. Some people are very energetic at that time, and in the evening it would be nice to have lights because people after work they can go on the pickleball courts and unwind, and it's good for our community. So, however, all of you have already been doing a wonderful job making Sebastian great, and I just wanted to give you the information, you know, so you could make an educated decision on what would be best for Sebastian, the community, and the future. I mean, this will be going on way past we're all gone, and the children will still be enjoying it and picking it up. Thank you. Thank you very much.
One more question. Mr. Griffin, like, was the, I guess the parking area, was it, I'm just trying to see how it got to that point. Like, was it for access for EMS or fire department, or for any, like, reason in particular that it needs to be built out so big? Because, I mean, again, if, I'm just thinking of a emergency type of issue as
I think you might be correct.
I mean, but even right now, if emergency occur and something has to go back towards the tennis court now, would it mean, because tennis court or where everything would be at now, I think it still wouldn't be a problem now for EMS to go back there right now currently, either would it be? Or, I'm just trying to think outside the box to try to see how it's got to be so high.
Actually, it would be. To go past the restrooms in a vehicle would be, you couldn't do that. You could get a vehicle, down past, where the attendant is, the tennis attendant is, to the tennis courts, but there's a post or something where the restrooms are, so you could not go past that. So maybe that's what Frank was looking at, because you have to have that EMS access and all that other business.
But there's enough room where most of the time they get out the vehicles and they bring those stretchers to where they need to go if you need a stretcher, or like, or fire department. Fire. I'm just trying to think outside the box. Well, maybe that's where those fees could come from, but I just know the way things are situated now, you mostly have fire hydrants everywhere to put out the fire if a fire is needed to be extinguished, and they have, they always park the EMS vehicle, and then they bring the stretchers from where they need to go with that. And then law enforcement, they always seem to be able to maneuver around almost anything, get around. So that's the only idea I was thinking about outside the box. Where could that be because of trying to build?
Might be. Yes, sir.
My name is Tim Furno. Oh, it doesn't work?
But it looks good.
My name's Tim Furno. I live in Collier Club, 610 Monarch Way, Sebastian, Florida. I was an athletic director, administrator at school. We built 2 schools. We facilitated for the community similar things you're doing. I highly advise you take a look at this facility. We're talking about 4 courts. Is that correct?
8, maybe
8. All right, 8 courts is not, circumference-wise and cement-wise, it's not very big. You have the parking, you have the restrooms. I don't think you have a traffic issue with all the parking here. I think you have plenty of parking. I've been here since 2009. I've never seen this place really crowded. You know, let's get real. But one thing you do have that no one's mentioned, you have your lights up. There's a big Merc pole up there. Those lights, 2 lights could practically light that slab up, and you can play at night. You could put them up there or point them, build it and point them at the court. It would cost you next to nothing. Everything is here. You're not going to interrupt anything. People don't mind walking. They're here for exercise. So it's beyond me why you'd want to take it away from this facility, plus you're by the city. You know, it's a win-win-win for everybody. I don't get it. I don't understand it. You guys do what you want. It's your town. I live here, but that's my 2 cents.
It's your town.
Our town. But, you know, I'm looking at money, and you could save a lot of money by, I think, putting it right here in a lot of issues. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Anybody else?
Good evening. My name is Dale Doling. I live at 246 South Wimbrow Drive. Been a resident of Sebastian for 9 years. I'm not really sure where to begin with this. It wasn't too many months ago that we had this stirring in the community for disc golf, and I used to engage with people all the time on social media. They said, no use fighting it, it's a done deal. It's in the bag, yeah, it's done. Well, if my recollection is correct, disc golf didn't happen here in Sebastian. I didn't see any rioting in the streets. I didn't see people chaining themselves together in front of City Hall, demanding that we have disc golf. So now we're looking at spending $250,000. Is that the roundabout figure that we're looking at here? $250,000 for pickleball. Yeah, I've heard some people say that, you know, people love pickleball. I didn't know what pickleball was until I read about it in the paper, and the fact that we were going to spend between $250,000 and $300,000 on pickleball courts here in Sebastian. Have any of you taken the time to walk across US Highway 1 across from Publix and observe the, I guess you could call it Sebastian's dirty little secret that we have of people living in Quonset huts over there? I'm dumbfounded that we are even standing here and sitting here considering spending $250,000 to placate a few people here in Sebastian when we have people that do not have a decent place to house their children. Have we lost our humanity in not only in this community but in this country of ours? It's still in our community, sir. Okay? Okay. I'm just curious, how does this whole process start? I mean, does somebody come to you and say, you know, I got together with a couple of my pals and we think that, you know, we'd like to throw mangoes up in the air and shoot them with bow and arrows, and we need some area here in the city to do that. And we're not willing to pay for it ourselves, of course. We want government to use their power to extract tax dollars from all of the citizens so that we can have a few people enjoying whatever activity it is that is presented to Parks and Recreation. So exactly how does that process start? I mean, is it just one person with a harebrained idea, or is it something?
Usually it's an organization will come to us and present something to us which they think is going to work.
Mm-hmm.
Just like when I first got here in 1991, or 85, when I started coaching Little League Baseball in 91, we had one field that was right here at the parking lot. We had probably eight or nine teams that played right here in one field.
Mm-hmm.
Through time, we purchased what is now the Barber Street Sports Complex. That's what happened. See what happened over time? And that's what's gonna happen here, over time. It'll pay off, it will.
And the same way at the dog park years ago, that
Yeah.
was a thing, and it came up and it came up, we talked about it, we talked about different parks to place it, we had enough
Mhm.
people interest in it, and I think when things come up like this, like with the disc golf, I don't know if we got the continued support through the disc golf group to keep us going. It was in the paper, and we did have a group come and talk about it. We did look at different areas, but it seemed like the area that we had thought about off of, Schumann, that when that was kind of no, then the group, we never really heard from them again. And so that's, to me, is one reason why it kind of quieted it. The thing with the monies that we have that we use come from impact fee monies when houses are put up, and a certain amount of that money is put into Parks and Recreation. So we actually have a monies in a budget,
Mhm.
which come off the impact fees, which are there, to be used for parks and recreation. And different areas of the city, depending on what part of the city, there are different zones, when we talk about zones, have monies in a pot for their neighborhood parks, and we can pull off of that if we do like a big community park, but that's the impact fee money which sits there that is used for parks and recreation.
Well, you know, there's parks, and then there are activities,
Yeah,
such as people that wanna play golf.
yeah.
Now, if we go out to Sebastian Municipal Golf Course, we can't just go walk on the golf course and tee off without paying our user fee before we use the golf course. You know, that used to be an idea that, goes back to, certainly many, many years ago, but, seems like user fees, are a dirty word these days.
Well, and we have the skate, I mean, we had even talked, I think when we had the skate park,
Yeah, we had user fees certainly for the skate park.
right, and bike trails, I mean, so what I'm saying too is I'm not disagreeing that we have other issues and things going on, I agree with that. But when we're here and we listen to different groups for recreation, that's what I think we're basing, what we're looking at monies, who's gonna use it and where is the money gonna be well spent? Because it's in the pot and it's gonna be there and it's designated for this use.
So, I'm looking at the crowd here tonight. Is this the extent of the support for pickleball here in Sebastian?
We've had a couple meetings on this already. The last meeting we had was pretty full on that.
Okay, 'cause you used the dog park as an example. I live just a couple of blocks
Right.
from the dog park. I took my dog there one time. I witnessed, one dog almost, maul another dog to death. And my son and I said, we're never gonna be coming back to this facility again. Then, for whatever reason, we decided to build a, toilet to the tune of $90,000 there at that, facility. And, you know, when you put toilets in areas that are already relatively, full of crime, a facility like that usually does nothing but, draw people to it like a magnet.
But we have to support neighborhood area parks, and there may be parts of town where we shouldn't, where people are thinking they should, but it's a citywide park community.
Well, I guess my point is, do we have to spend $90,000 on toilets here in the city of Sebastian?
Well, at times when we put facilities up for people to use, if there's bathrooms that are needed for that type of recreation, we do it. It was something that seemed to be needed for that park.
Well, I'll tell you what, I can build a heck of a nice house for $90,000.
I have no control over the budget on how much
I
it costs to
understand.
build a bathroom.
I understand.
But the thing is, with pickleball court, it seems like we've had a lot of support for that. And what we're looking at is, where could we, if we're going to put that up, where would it be the best use? And that's what we're kind of talking about now, so.
Okay.
But,
So, if for some reason the Parks and Recreation Department and the City Council decided that, pickleball courts were a little too, pricey for what we're getting, do you think we'd have an uprising here in Sebastian, like we did not have when the disc golf, idea went away? Sure.
I'm sorry, Mr.
Dale Doling.
So, what is it that you're proposing?
What am I proposing? I can get on the Go Line bus, and I can go to the Jungle Club in Vero Beach and pay $5 to play pickleball until my feet have blisters. That's my point.
So, and I just wanna know where you stand, okay?
Okay.
I'm asking you what, having listened to you in your statement, I'm asking, what is it that you ultimately want?
What do I want? I want us to establish our priorities in the city of Sebastian.
So I haven't heard that?
That's what I'm interested in.
We, put that out there.
Okay.
Parks and Rec is a subcommittee of the city, so
Yep.
the things that we decide here are a non-binding,
I understand.
resolution. If you feel, and other friends of yours or other, people in the city also are like-minded of that as well. There's been a proposal by like-minded people that are looking to use impact fees that are for the city, and that has been a proposal within a budget that exists under the city. If you oppose that, which is your right, and giving other proposals, other things that the city should do with that money, then once the subcommittee, as a non-binding committee, puts that forward and goes to city council, you're free at that point to also stand up with other people besides just yourself to voice your concern as a resident of Sebastian, to say, I don't feel like this is the way that we should be spending the money for our city, then that would be in front of the council who makes those decisions on how to best move forward the things that we're doing in the city. But if you're looking to find and make it accountable to that we're doing things that are out of the scope of the city, it's that these are on the agenda based on there's a budget that is existed, that is pulled out from something that's officially drawn up as far as where you're allowed to use money. If we wanted to make a resolution today to use money from Parks and Rec to help the people that you have described in the park, which is great, it would be among this council to make that determination anyway.
I understand that.
If you want to make a resolution to do that, and I applaud you for doing it, and if you can find a way to do it, I encourage you to do it. But that's outside the scope of this committee.
I understand that.
Also, like, the pickleball courts the pickleball courts would not encompass all that money. There's certain areas, certain entities around the pickleball courts is what's gonna encompass a certain figure. So the pickleball courts almost cost, they don't cost nowhere near that much money to put in. I heard you say a quote about a price.
Well, that's the number that I've, seen bandied about, somewhere between $250,000 and $300,000, the total cost.
Total cost for the whole, but actually, but you made a.
Okay, I always look at the total cost involved, sir. 'Cause
True again, but like I said again, well, we just talked about a few things here that maybe some of those things may not, some of those things are needed. And then, like again, like he said, we just are a committee, and we just voicing our opinion about a few things, and we're trying to speak for, or trying to represent the whole entire city. And like, in the pickleball group that's in now, this has not been just a night thing or a last month thing. This has been coming on for a long period of time, and like Joanne mentioned, the actual disc golf group came in, and at some point in time, they was not as prevalent to come back and keep coming back like the pickleball group has. Nothing against no group at all, period. But we see that this is, again, your ideas are valued, and we are listening to them, but I just think a little bit of information there, like, it's not encompassed in the whole as far as a few things. Not to say anything about what you're saying, I'm just saying that the price you mentioned about the sports in general, I think, it is not true, so that's why I think it's not true.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you. Have a good evening.
My name is James Demetrian. I live at 218 Del Monte Road here in Sebastian. I'm a snowbird. I also live on Cape Cod. I want to address, I was a little trouble hearing, but Mr. Sims was addressing maybe EMS accessing the back through the path and the post.
That's the only thing I could think that.
Okay.
Because I wasn't here at the last meeting.
We got it down. Cape Cod has about 60 miles of bike trails. It's an old railroad that runs and it crosses streets everywhere. There are posts everywhere, so cars don't go down, but they all have locks on them. And EMS has the keys. They pull the post up. There's ambulances running down the bike trail all the time. So a simple solution to that would be a post with a lock.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else? I got a question, Mr. Griffin. If we go recommend this one in the back, would it have to be handicap accessible on that path?
Sure. Yes, sir.
Would it have to be concrete?
Anything we do is ADA, has to be ADA.
Frisbee parked up there. Okay.
Okay, any other questions on?
Which, we redo restrooms at the golf course. Has to be ADA. If they're remote locations.
Would we use, Parks and Rec monies for that path? Because it would be a new path then to the area, so it wouldn't be out of the city budget then? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, my personal opinion is I feel like there's more pros to Friendship Park than to some of the other places. In my humble opinion.
I mean, I'm in favor of, after sitting here and listening, I'm about to gonna do everything, we can do it right, and it is worth waiting.
The only thing I have, I like Friendship Park, I do. The only thing I have right now is the, baseball field. What are we gonna do with it? If they want the field back, we're gonna have to go to the county to see if we can use one of the schools, or what?
I would just wait.
I, I think the idea that we floated a couple months ago, Filbert, and building one of those $90,000 restrooms. I mean,
We'll deal with that.
We're not really, yeah.
All right, I'm in favor of Friendship Park. Okay?
Friendship Park, if we can get a path going to the back. Friendship Park.
I think we have a
okay, I'll incorporate that into next year's budget, try to refine the, proposal.
Oh.
Okay, new business, none, staff matters, Mr. Griffin.
No, sir, nothing this evening.
I'll take over. I asked for some signs over at the dog park, and they are put up, I think, whoever put them up, thank you very much. The one for dusk is on, and also the one about, skateboarders jumping the, steps over there. Also, this is my last meeting. I sent a letter to Sally Mail last Monday, that I resigned. As of this morning, this is my last meeting. So, talked to Rachel today, and Jeanette, they would put on the agenda for you guys to pick out who you want to be as your new chief next week, or next month. So, I had a couple of reasons I wanted to leave. So,
Okay.
one of them might be coming back here, so.
Thank you. Thank you. So this is our last time with you.
Yes, it is.
Will you come and put,
Up here.
if we let you speak?
Thank you for putting up with me for, I don't know, what, a year, anyway. Okay, next one would be, or the next,
Oh, wait, good.
oh, I'm sorry,
If we could, I am a new dog owner, and I've been to the Bark Park quite a few times, and I've had a lot of people respond. There is a hole in the fence that the dogs are getting out of, if that can get repaired. And another request from the public while I was there is there's two really big bare patches. They were requesting for sod to replace that, because it's getting to be like mud pools.
Where is that at?
At the Bark, in the big one, right there in the middle.
where's the hole in the fence?
Right there in the middle of that, where that little trash can is, the trash can's in front of it, so nobody gets out. And the third and last item on the, drinking fountain, it doesn't pool the water, it just completely drains, so it's ineffective for the dogs. Those three items. Hardy Park is looking good. That's it for me.
Thank you to Mr. Griffin. Now who did you have come over? Somebody with?
I did it myself.
You did
I did,
not.
I'm kidding.
Oh, Easy Street Park, I had emailed him and said, we need somebody to clean the tables. Maybe that would've been nice. And the pads, because they were just nasty, and the benches. And did you have somebody from your department?
No, one of our guys, Public Works. I mean, really, we have very good people. I mean, all you have to do is ask them once, and you ask them nice, and
Can you put us on a schedule?
I asked them to put it on the rotation. Yes, I did.
Thank you very much. Okay, and then my only other question is, if this playground back here in the future is gonna be taken out, the handicap one, we need to relocate it.
This is where I was thinking. I was thinking in the roundabout area around the Boys and Girls Club. I mean, there's sufficient amount of space there, and why don't you all think, right now, we have a site plan workup for the new, police building back there. So, if you all, I mean, we have some time, but if you all maybe would take a look at that and see if it can't be retrofitted over there to that roundabout grassy area right in front of the Boys and Girls Club.
Okay, that might be enough. Okay. That's all I have. Yep.
You spoke a lot already.
Karen?
1, 2, 3, 4.
You dozed off.
Before the 25th of April.
We're looking for another, the date for the next meeting.
April 25th. Kinda ticked it.